Today I'm at the bench tying some more ice jigs. Stay tuned. So good morning. This past week, central New York State was hit hard with some really cold Arctic air. Local lakes froze over pretty quick, easily 10 inches of ice or more. The last few days, ice fishing on the smaller lakes. I'm thinking Chenille County, maybe up towards Cortland County. The smaller lakes have frozen over well. Guys have been doing good, mostly for panfish in the shallower water. Nothing, I'm guessing, under 12 feet depth is what I'm thinking. But now we're hit with this warm spell. Yesterday, I know a couple guys that went out and did really well. So today I decided to sit down. I was just messing around with some of my new paints and painted up. It was just a white, what I call the football head. It's the smaller 1/8 shaped like a football with the pointy nose, that minnow profile jig. And I was just testing out the fluorescent colors and just did a plain white with a fluorescent nose. Wanted to sit down and just tie up a few of the pro footballs that we use here, ice fishing. And I didn't have any orange ice chenille. So looking through my materials, found a couple things that I'd like to use, I think will do well, and at least get me a few jigs until I can, order in some proper chenille and do these up the way I usually do. But because it was different, I thought I'd like to show it. So if we switch to the vise, here is that head. It's a 1/8 football, what I call a football. And it's very plain. It's just a white head with an orange nose. And it's a fairly small jig. It's got a small silhouette. It's got that fish minnow profile. If you're tying calf tail or marabou on these. But for ice fishing, we usually tip these with spikes. And the pro footballs are very simple. Just a bunch of flash on the hook here and a palmered hackle. So there's two things I'd like to use for the body. I'm going to end up using the ice dub for these jigs specifically. There's two colors that would be perfect. First is the UV shrimp pink, which I think everybody's familiar with. That shrimp color, which is a light orange. It's got a nice amount of flash to it. There's purples and yellows and all sorts of color. And the color I'm going to use is just the straight ice dub orange, which is a great color. And again, you see a lot of greens and yellows flashing off of this. Another material that I think I've shown before in other videos, which would also work great. I'm going with the ice dub just to give it a little bit more bulk. But that's the sparkle braid. So this is a fluorescent orange pearl. And the sparkle braid is an interesting material. Perfect for if you need a very fine chenille. So it's that braided cord. It's It's a braided cord with the tinsel in it. It is hollow like a tube. That's the way they knit it. And this is a perfect color. This would look great on this jig. I just chose the Ice Dub, like I said, because I want it to be a little bit more bulky than what this material ends up being when it's tied on. I'm using just my regular round nylon unwaxed thread. This is just orange, nothing special. It's a 2/0. Lock on the thread and I walk it down to about the hook point and then back up to the head with touching wraps. And then we go straight to the Ice Dub, orange Ice Dub. In this you don't need a terribly large pinch, but I kind of pull it apart to make it just a big flat pinch of flash. And then you just twist it onto your thread. You can use dubbing wax for this if you want. This seems to stick pretty well if you just grab it with your fingers and twist it into a noodle. And then we're just going to wrap this on. A few wraps back towards the point of the hook, and then we bring it back up to the head of the jig. And that gives us a nice ball of flash about the same size as what you would get from a medium-sized chenille. For the hackle for this, I'm just going to go with a what I kind of call a medium size or small size ginger hackle. Some of these are a little long in this bag, so bear with me. Let's see. These are pieces that I've taken off the necks earlier, and I just had extra, so I just put them back in this bag. But we're using just an inexpensive, this is a ginger streamer neck. This is from Hackle. I bought this sometime in the 90s, I think it was. This is a pretty old neck. But what I'm using the hackle for primarily are these smaller pieces that are found. This is actually the top. You know, the feathers hang on the chicken like so. But the smaller pieces that are up towards the neck themselves. These other feathers are great, but I would use them for larger jigs, streamers, wings for jigs and streamers. So, but it's a really nice light ginger color. It's not terribly dark. I do have some bright fluorescent orange hackle, but I just didn't want to overdo it with the everything being orange. I wanted to add a little bit of variety, and I really do like using ginger hackle for these ice jigs. So I'm going to just stroke the fibers just to make them stand out. Take my scissors and I will cut the butt end, and then I will just trim 1/8 of an inch or so up the stem to give the thread something to bite onto as we lock it on. I hold the this is the top of the feather. This is the bottom that faces the body of the chicken. So I'm just going to hold it with the top facing the jig, lock it on. There were 3 wraps locking it on, and then I'll put 2 wraps on the other side of that tag end just to sandwich it in place and lock it on. And then you can take your plain hackle pliers. We're just going to wrap this 1, 2. The second wrap, I brought it in front of my bobbin, so when I switch hands, I can pick up my bobbin and lock this right into place. And I'm just angling the thread so it rides along the top of the jig head, pushing any fibers that want to face forward, just pushing them back into place. And then I'll use my whip finish tool to finish this off. This is a very easy jig to tie, and you can do a whole bunch of these in an evening. Which one's bigger? This one. And it seems like there's really not much to this jig, but it works super well. And again, we're ice fishing with these. We tip them usually with some sort of small spike, or if they're really aggressive, sometimes even a tiny minnow or the minnow head. But it's a jig that is pretty productive through the ice. And like I said, I was just playing with the fluorescent paint, just seeing how it looked once it had the clear coat on it. I really like this fluorescent color, the fluorescent colors that I'm using with the airbrush. And if I can do the easy things like these ice fishing jigs using the fluorescent colors, it will actually speed things up an awful lot, just because I'm not using the enamel that I typically would use. And there's a couple steps into not just painting it, but putting the clear coat on, and it's usually a 24-hour dry time. So fun jigs. These are super fun to use. Also use them in the summertime. There are a few guys down in Florida that fish these through lily pads. Just like we ice fish up here, they put them through the holes in the lily pads and fish them vertically, and do really well from what I understand. So a few stores down there sell these. Finish this off with just a few drops of the lacquer-based head cement. And that's all there is to it. It's what we call a pro football. Definitely a jig that I have in my tackle box ice fishing. And I sell a whole bunch of these all throughout the state. So I think that will do it for that. I've already tied up a half dozen or so. I have a couple heads left. I might go with the sparkle braid just to have a couple. I'll test them out, maybe count how many fish I count on each one. But I think that's going to do it for me today. So if you liked what I did here today or have any questions, put some comments down below. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any new content. Feel free to share any of the videos that we do, and it helps increase awareness for the channel. So that's it for today. As always, keep tying, guys, and tight lines.